What's something that we'll definitely stop seeing by year 2050? World War II survivors. My grandma is a Holocaust survivor. She's 88, born in 1935, and was a little kid when the war ended. What got me into history was hearing stories from my World War II vet grandpa and from my friend's grandma who was a Holocaust survivor. Makes me sad to think we eventually won't be able to hear about these first-hand experiences in person anymore. I wish I wrote down more of what they talked about. Veterans Affairs Canada back in the 80s video interviewed WW2 survivors and got them to recount their war stories so the memories wouldn't be lost. It was the first time my great-uncle spoke about being a Japanese POW in Hong Kong. I had never seen him cry before, and he had never talked about it because it was appropriate for women and children to hear. Thankfully, both him and my grandfather survived being POWs for 3 years and came home to us. Newspapers. Can confirm. Source, worked in newspaper industry till 2022. Damn. At the end, was it like walking through a mall today? I mean, print is still large, just not as large. I swear by the Wall Street Journal print edition, and I'm Gen Z, this shit ain't going away so easily. I know someday they are finally going to suspend delivery of my print Washington Post. But my young millennial ass will be there until the very last day. The big papers are still doing all right, it's the more regional ones that are doing horrible. Even they aren't failing for lack of a market, more bad business practices and mergers leading to lack of care put into them. Yeah, the local paper in my mid-sized city has about 1/4 of the content that it did 10 years ago but costs a lot more, and they don't even have their own offices and printing facilities anymore, just a rented mailbox at a UPS store as they have remote workers and the printing is outsourced. Wall Street Journal, NYT, Walpo, USA Today will stick around a while, but the smaller ones are fading away. Miami Herald just suspended delivery to my mom. South Florida is chock full of Luddite, newspaper-loving boomers, but the delivery route was no longer profitable because she and one other old man were the sole customers on it. Most are just reading it on their iPads by now. Walking my Cincy suburb 3 to 4 times/week at 6 a.m., nobody gets a paper anymore. There was a few prior to COVID. Now there's none. My guess is privacy. We are already their brother. Big brother. Seashells. Had to look this one up. Never thought something like that could happen. Yeah, it's all my mother-in-law's fault. She plans excursions to special beaches based on hotspots in various shelling groups on Facebook. We are going Sanibel Island because my Facebook group said there are rare and complete wentlet traps and cowries. She's either going to be the savior of the seashells or the harbinger of doom. OMG. In Florida, we would publicly yell at people taking shells and alive marine life off the beaches to collect. That's a big NO from the locals who love their beaches. Hey, what, how, why? Google ocean acidification. In short, the oceans become more acidic, which negatively impacts marine calcifiers. Global warming scares the shit out of me, but I've wondered, hasn't CO2 been a lot higher than now? But there still existed shellfish? One of the issues with climate change is the rate of change. Big changes have happened before, but if organisms have time to evolve with the changes, they can adapt. I don't know specifically about the seashells and CO2, but it could be a similar issue. Definitely is a hard word to use in predicting the future, but I suspect by then we'll have highly effective treatments for cancer, to the point that it's not really a scary diagnosis anymore. I also think we'll have AI and robotic systems that can replace most low-skilled labor. But if cancer treatments become successful at any time in the future, how will the drug companies make their billions? Think of the billionaires, please. Drug companies will own the cancer treatments. I have always wondered what will happen to the low-skill laborers once AI/robotics actually do take their jobs. Do they just fail to survive at that point, or do governments create programs for them to sustain a minimal lifestyle? Would education finally become a socially valuable thing? That last one is a result of the ridiculous number of unskilled high school graduates that we just push through because we need numbers here in USA, yet none of them have truly achieved any academic performance worth the degree. We literally have a massive group of technically uneducated high school graduates flooding the adult world. In Germany, you can just revisit school and re-educate yourself to work in a different industry. School and education of all sorts is free UND, not restricted to age. Society will adapt. But here in the US, everything after high school costs money, and a not insignificant portion of one of our political parties would like to abolish all public education. They see it as a handout instead of an investment in the future. The year 2049 on our desk calendars. Also, desks maybe, and calendars. Calendars have had a good run. Ick about you guys, but I still have my work physical calendar set to June 2022 and I haven't touched it since LOL. Clear night sky without a net of satellites. It will be full of wildfire smoke for eternity. More like trash, Wall-E style. On the flip side, this could open up a business opportunity to salvage satellites in the future, once space travel becomes commercialized. Affordable houses. I mean, it's already something we've stopped seeing. There's an expectation that real estate always goes up, because historically in this country, it always has. But the history of this country is very short. Look at Japan's residential housing market. It has still not reached peak pricing of the early 90s. Obviously, the factors are totally different, but the conventional notion in this country that real estate is a safe bet is a dangerous one, especially since it's causing these massive bubbles every few years. Things like building regulations and strict permitting and lack of supply all play a role in why the housing market is the way it is today. But I think this country is in a rude awakening over the next 5 to 10 years in this sector. People don't realize that when the saying of real estate being a safe investment came about, it was because our country was still so young. Nowadays, it's not so much. Bring on the collapse. Then maybe I can buy a house before I die. It took me 2 years to buy a house as I kept getting outbid by cash buyers for houses in the 1.5 mil range. I eventually got lucky and was able to buy one off market. If there's a collapse, I figured these cash buyers are going to snatch them up as rental properties. Just like after the 2008 collapse. Buying foreclosures was great business for people who could make large investments and wait. It was also a golden opportunity to buy that it sickens me that I missed out on for various reasons. I have several friends who bought their homes around 2012 to 13 for $350K that are now worth almost $900K. They're paying on their mortgages for almost $1 million homes what I am paying in rent. Trump, Biden, McConnell, Putin, Netanyahu, polar bears, North Atlantic right whales. Enough fresh water. The Florida Keys. So it's a mixed bag, is what you're saying. Impressive list. Tractor trailers driven by humans. As a driver who delivers to restaurants and fast food chains, I just don't see this one happening in our lifetime. Look at how many people jumped on the Tesla self-driving bandwagon. Nobody. None of the major car manufacturers are doing it, and the small examples we've seen have failed epically by causing crashes and traffic jams. The only thing that took off was EV, but now manufacturers are backing off a bit because there aren't enough people buying and there's too many problems with charging stations, battery range, etc. Hybrid is the way to go for decades to come in my opinion. EV will continue to be small niche in the market. Driving a semi-truck with a fully loaded trailer, especially parking at loading docks and in parking lots of restaurants, there's too many variables and there would be too much liability placed on the companies who develop the technology. Right now, when an accident happens, it falls on the driver first. So even though there's testing being done, I don't believe we'll see it in full swing for a long time. Individual ownership of anything. Everything is going to require a subscription to keep running. It's already happening with most software, and we're seeing it in physical property that will just cease to function if you aren't paying a recurring fee to keep it running. More and more housing is being bought up by giant corporations to be rented out, driving up the prices to points that only they can afford so that no one is able to afford to buy their own property and are forced to rent from the very entities that put them in that position. We're seeing key features in vehicles being locked behind monthly subscriptions. You will own nothing and be happy about it. Everything that you think belongs to you will be able to be taken away or rendered useless if you don't keep paying that monthly fee. Neuralink. After a while, people will realize that putting a computer chip in your brain is a terrible idea, for hundreds of different reasons. These reasons include, but are not limited to, how can you have privacy when a computer chip is constantly reading your mind? Will you be okay with unskippable ads playing inside your own head, impossible to ignore? What happens if you get a computer virus? What do you do when the computer chip wears down and breaks with age? Will you have to get another brain surgery to replace it? Implants are a cool idea, but they won't be anything like we've seen in science fiction. I really don't think most people want to put stuff like that inside their head. TikTok. What do you think should disappear from our world forever in 2050? Thank you very much for watching. Write your answers in the comments. Click and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.